Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a completely revolutionary ecosystem that's being built right now in Lagos. You can kind of think of it as assembling the ultimate superhero team to tackle a massive industry problem. We're talking about a system that literally rewires how major corporations discover, fund, and build technology side by side with independent developers.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the broken system, then meet our key players, the talent, the titans, and the forge. After that, we'll unpack the master plan, and finally, look at winning the future.
Part 1, The Broken System, a world out of balance. Let's set the scene and look at the massive structural conflict our ecosystem is facing right now.
So imagine we're in Lagos. The year is 2026. We're looking at a landscape where supply and demand are just wildly disconnected. On one side, you've got these brilliant world-class builders. On the other, massive institutions absolutely desperate for innovation. But the bridge connecting them? Well, it's essentially collapsed. I mean, just look at this number. Over 100,000 actively coding professionals in Lagos alone. That is a massive amount of talent. Yet corporate Nigeria has absolutely no reliable, repeatable way to harness it. It's like this vast ocean of capability, but without any proper channels to direct it toward the complex, real-world problems these industries are facing today.
And that brings us to the real villain of our story. Companies are dropping anywhere from 12 to 20 million naira on a single internal innovation program. And what do they actually get for it? Slideware, basically just pretty presentations. Their hackathons aren't resulting in actual, working, production-grade prototypes. So this huge gap between what's being paid for and what's actually delivered, that's exactly where our heroes step in.
Section 2, the talent, representing the supply side. It's time to meet the first hero in our ensemble cast, the ones bringing the raw building power.
Let's look at this ecosystem strictly from the developer's perspective. Think of this as their character stat card. You know, back in the day, they used to just compete for speculative prize money, but now they get access to an API sandbox and direct mentorship from corporate technical teams. This is a game changer because they get to validate their skills under actual real-world constraints, walking away with a documented performance record. Plus, they can access convertible grants of 2 to 5 million naira. That means they get crucial capital right at formation, without giving up immediate equity. So that weekend project, it actually turns into a legally registered startup with its own bank account. Or hey, maybe they don't want to be founders. In that case, they can use the talent placement feature to get straight to hiring managers, turning all that hackathon hustle into a high-paying tech job. Win-win, right?
Moving on to Section 3, the Titan. These are our corporate sponsors representing the demand side. Think of your Tier 1 banks or major telcos who are sweating over a ticking compliance clock thanks to the new NIMC Act of 2026.
Let's check out the Titans' stats from their own perspective. Instead of burning cash on wasteful internal projects, they tap into the annual innovation cycle. For them, the benefit is a flexible, variable cost alternative to their usual R&D. And the positive outcome? They walk away with 3 structured, highly viable pilot meetings. They also get a designated champion product owner, basically an embedded internal guide whose whole job is to navigate these young startups through that notoriously lethal corporate procurement maze. This turns a hackathon team into a fully procurement-ready vendor. And honestly, the best part for them? By using pre-integrated identity rails, they get a massive regulatory compliance head start, leading directly to measurable API adoption for their own systems.
Section 4, the Forge. These are the infrastructure providers, the unseen force of our story. They provide the very ground our heroes do battle on, the payment, identity, and data layers.
From the perspective of providers like Paystack or Mono, plugging into this ecosystem is an absolute no-brainer. They use the default Rails integration feature to license out their infrastructure. The immediate payoff? They get around 150 to 300 highly capable developers trained exclusively on their specific API stack during a single hackathon. The long-term outcome here is huge. Lock-in and high switching costs. Because, let's face it, developers prefer using what they already know. On top of that, these providers get an API adoption dashboard. It's essentially proprietary market research that gives them deep adoption data and benchmark reports. They get to see exactly which APIs make the jump from prototype to production, under what specific constraints, and exactly who is building with them.
All right, Section 5, the master plan, or innovation infrastructure as a service. So we've met the developer, the corporate sponsor, and the infrastructure provider. Now, how do we actually unite these 3 personas to fix this broken system of wasted R&D?
That brings us to the core concept, IaaS, or Innovation Infrastructure as a Service. If you take away just one thing from this explainer, let it be this. This is definitely not an events company. No, it's a reusable infrastructure layer. It's an operating system that binds all our heroes together. It completely replaces those fluffy one-off marketing events with recurring hard outcomes. We're talking actual working pilots and hired engineers.
So here is the mission briefing, the 6-month innovation cycle. This is the exact battle plan, and the clock is ticking. Months 1 and 2 are all about problem discovery, literally co-authoring the challenge with the corporate sponsor. Month 3 is developer mobilization, where we target the verified community. Then, month 4 hits fast and hard with a 72-hour intensive hackathon build. By month 5, the top teams move right into a 60-day pilot integration, directly inside the sponsor's staging stack. And finally, month 6 wraps it up with conversion and reporting, which results in actual, real-world procurement decisions and talent placement.
Now the most crucial part of this plan is how we defeat the ultimate villain here, corporate absorption. You know how it used to go? A brilliantly run hackathon would produce these amazing projects, but then they'd just die in a bank's compliance or InfoSec department. Why? Because weak post-event project management simply couldn't push a mere project through corporate procurement. But the IIAS way? It's a whole different ballgame. We deploy a lethal legal packaging sprint before the hackathon even finishes to create a fully registered vendor.
Just look at the arsenal in this sprint. In the 48 hours right before the hackathon finals, the shortlisted teams are run through this gauntlet. Their corporate affairs commission registration, paid for and completed. They execute standard founder agreements with real vesting schedules. They sign pre-negotiated convertible grant terms for 2 to 5 million naira, and they even open a digital entity bank account. So, by Sunday evening, the winning developers aren't just 3 kids with laptops anymore. They are a fully registered, bankable legal entity. Corporate procurement isn't evaluating some weekend hackathon project. They are evaluating a legitimate vendor.
Section 6. Winning the future. Loot and crossover events. So when this incredible team assembles, executes the master plan, and actually survives the corporate gauntlet, what's the ultimate loot for the platform? And where do they go next? Well, this brilliantly illustrates the ecosystem's victories. We're looking at 4 massive revenue engines that scale incredibly efficiently. Sponsorship brings in 40 million naira for guaranteeing actual pilots. Infrastructure licensing pulls in another 25 million from providers who desperately want their Rails to be the default. Platform subscriptions yield 20 million from organizations buying up those proprietary benchmark reports. And talent placement fees drive 15 million from placing those battle-tested developers into roles. And here's the kicker. Because the API integration costs drop with each event, the platform actually gets cheaper and way more profitable to run with every single cycle. But the adventure doesn't stop there. Because the underlying infrastructure, like identity, payments, and KYC, remains exactly the same, the platform can pivot to new industries incredibly fast. Here's a look at the upcoming crossover events, where our core infrastructure team tackles entirely new industry bosses. They kick things off with fintech for MSMEs, fixing informal worker credit. Then, boom, they pivot to health tech, tackling emergency response and claims. Months 10 to 12, agritech and logistics for smallholder financing. And by year 2, they are already taking on cybersecurity and 5G IoT.
So, we've seen how developers get actual careers in capital, how corporate sponsors get real pilots and compliance, and how infrastructure providers achieve ultimate lock-in in data. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. When this ecosystem inevitably becomes the absolute default operating system for all Nigerian innovation, when the vast majority of solutions are being prototyped right here on these verified rails, is your company going to be part of the cast writing the future, or will you just be left on the sidelines reading about it?